Hey, welcome back to another Faders Up with Trovarsi. And it's February. I'm super excited for my guest tonight. He's a fantastic sound designer and musician, composer. And I'm sure a lot of you that follow him know him for his Doombient music. And that's sort of like his, what he calls it, which is awesome. So welcome, BLAKMOTH. Hey, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming onto the show. Did I said that right? Doombient? Is that
Yeah.
ambient? Yeah. I think that's a great. I like that. But yeah, thank you. Before we dig in, and I have a lot of questions for you. Let's play your patch. Do you want to say anything to the audience before we get started, or?
Enjoy.
Awesome. All right. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes, I needed that right now too. It was like perfect. Talk to us. Tell us what you talk us through the patch. I'll let you talk us through. Yeah.
All right. I pretty much have just the two voices on here. For the longest time, I just had Manus, but now I have BIA because it's just mandatory. It's unavoidable.
I mean, I'm biased, but yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I fought for so long because I was like, I have Manus. I don't need BIA. Manus is the new BIA. Like, pfft. And then I couldn't help myself, and now I'm like, oh yeah, you kind of need both. But that's the main voices. There's some stuff coming from the circuit tracks, but I tried to play everything live. I'm a very tactile artist, so that's why I got into modular, because I wanted to be able to touch everything and move it myself. So a lot of the modulation, if you notice, I was doing the modulation by hand and then also on the circuit. So nice. But that's really it. There's not actually a lot going on because it was all manual. So I've got
I think we have an image too. Let me see if we can pop it up while we're kind of.
Yeah,
that might help a little bit.
It's like two voices and a lot of modulation, and it's pretty much everything in there. Nice. I use this sample drum for textures and stuff. I do live recordings with my Zoom field recorder, or I'll just find sounds around the house and kind of manipulate them, and I store them there so that way they can kind of create a background atmosphere or a texture in the track. Other than that, that's pretty much all it gets to do. And I often use the two clef diezes to modulate Manus when I'm like focused somewhere else. So they're kind of like my backup crew.
Now let me ask you, was the Manus the more higher tone that was happening in the patch, or?
Yes, the as I call it, the guitar sound.
Okay, yeah.
I play bass. So like whenever I use Manus, I try to, whatever I put in there, it's what I would play on bass if I was playing bass to it. So that's kind of how I kind of work Manus. But yeah, the higher pitch tone was Manus. Bassimilus was doing the kick and then the bass in the later parts. And the drums were coming from the circuit. And the plucky sound was also the circuit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And how were you modulating the Manus? You were using, you already said that with the two clef diezes. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Like I think I had one the unipolar coming to the saw modulation, while everything else was being all the other modulation was coming from Secaruina. I was using Pons Asinorum to modulate Secaruina, so it kind of brought in the high, mids, and lows at different rates. Give it some more texture.
Are you running it? Let's see on there. Is there a filter or any?
Yeah, I have.
Are you running the Manus? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because whenever I use the Manus, sometimes it, it's the Manus. It can get a little wild.
It gets out of control. Another way I deal with that is I'll run Manus through an attenuator. When you run it through an attenuator and you take it to the lower end, it cuts out all the noise on it. So a lot of times when you hear my music and you're like, how does it sound so pretty? Why isn't this Manus all like rah? It's because it's through an attenuator.
That's a good tip. Thank you. I'm gonna definitely try that. Yeah, because it's. I mean, I love the Manus, but it definitely can get like angry elephant real quick if you don't save it. And like, how are you liking? So that's the new circuit. How are you? Did you had it for a little bit?
I was like, I've been considering a circuit for a long time before I got into the modular, and they sent me this one, and I was like, all right. I like I have the mono station, which I was using for a long time to kind of sequence things using the CV outs. But I don't sequence that often. Majority of everything I do is like it's using the clock or been sequenced, but I was like, I kind of want to get a little more into sequencing. So it was, I thought about using it for that, you know, and because it has the MIDI outs. And once I got a hold of it, it's pretty nice. It definitely rivals the old circuit. Like the old circuit is definitely old news now.
Nice. It's a lot thinner. And I think, didn't they kind of it seemed like they changed up the workflow a little bit on it too.
Oh yeah, the workflow is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only had it a week and I'm like, I'm stuck in. So what's really nice is I love the synth engine as far as like the Novation components. So when you go in there, you can edit anything. You can build whatever you want. So that's been changed up, and the knobs are now defined. So it's not just like they do some random stuff. Now they're all filter controls and different things like that. And depending on what you have selected, they control the different parameters. The effects on it are nice. It's good times. It's good times.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, and it's like mainly the size in that too. The other one I felt was like a little clunky.
Mm-hmm. It's got a built-in battery now.
Sleek. Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah. And then in the patch, because I was using my phone to record, it doesn't really like the idea of 4 inputs on my Scarlett. So conveniently, the new circuit has 2 audio inputs. So I ran BIA and MI into the circuit. So they're actually being controlled. So that's how I was modulating volume and stuff on the circuit for the Eurorack, because it's all going into that. And same with the effects. All the effects were the circuit. So
nice. All right. Well, it sounded fantastic for sure.
Thank you.
And just to let all the viewers, for one, I just want to say thank you for tuning in and taking a look at the comments in the chat. And please drop your questions if there's any questions throughout the show. And thank you for being here. And I'm definitely going to post just your performance as well after the show too, just so people want to go back and watch it and listen to it. But yeah, so let me get into some of the questions I have here for you. Like, let's just start off with like the big one for me. Like, how did you? Doombient. Let's just start there. Just dive right in. I want to dive right in.
So I started out making music and doing what I felt was like what people wanted to hear. So, I was making a lot of just, typical electronic music, believe it or not, future bass and stuff like that. But
dope.
I was feeling it, but then I wasn't. And so I went on to the next, what I think people are want to hear. And so I did a lot of lo-fi hip hop for a while, and I just wasn't feeling connected with it. At the time I was doing it all on the computer. I had a machine, and it felt like, I would release an album and then someone would ask me about it later and I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about because I don't remember it. And so I wasn't connecting with the music. And so I was like, I really need to get a hardware synth. And I got a Volca FM, and I loved it. So I got a second one. And with that, just the tones and sounds that it made, I got into just making ambient music. But even then, it just didn't feel, like what I wanted to do. And so I had to think about what music I like to listen to. And I listened to a lot of metal and doom and stuff like that. And I was like, what if I take that and apply it to ambient? So that way there's just this new, because I also felt like I would make stuff and then I'd scroll through Instagram and I'd be like, hey, I kind of made that too. And it's like, there's just too much of the same thing. So let's see if I can just introduce something different and kind of push something different. And so I was like, what? Let's combine doom and ambient and see where it goes, see if people like it. And that's what happened.
Nice. So, so now going back to your influences, so do you listen? So you still listen to a lot of like metal and different metal genres, like within the.
Yeah, I still do, and a lot of rock music. I take a lot of influence from different things, like when it comes to polyrhythms and clocks and things like that. That's Tool, and a lot of the progressions and stuff, like Swallow the Sun and bands like that. The doom bands. I was like, that's really cool. And then Suno. So I take that influence and kind of mimic it in my work. But at the same time, I try to find my own thing. And I think I kind of watched a lot of people that I follow use Manus a lot. And I'm like, see, that sound right there is that sound that I'm trying to create with all this other stuff. So I got rid of everything and I got Manus by itself and one clef Diaz. That's how I started. And so I just had those two. And then I think the first few albums I did, that's all I was using was those two. And I was just multi-tracking it on a cassette. And it just blew up from there.
Nice.
Noise engineering is just great.
When you so let's go back to like, so when you mentioned, I believe you said sono, and I could be wrong because I'm not a death metal or death metal listener, but my daughter is. And is that the band where they're like so into like the subsonic?
Yes.
When you go to the concert, they lay on the floor and they kind of like kind of like feel the vibration. I was like, when she told me about that, I was like, I could get down with that. So is that sort of like, just to put that out there too for anyone else who's watching in the show right now, maybe they're not into metal.
Yeah, that's
so they
absolutely
kind of understand that influence where that was coming from.
Right. They're a doom metal band, and it's a lot of drones. Drones with guitars. But and they're always in cloaks. And it's awesome.
I like it.
But so stuff like that. And that was why like Manus was the way, because it was just like it sounds like that. It sounds like that heavy guitar sound. So it was perfect.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well then, so when you're thinking back to the other music that you were making and you were feeling a disconnection, like when you mentioned lo-fi hip hop, do you still take some of those things that you were using, like ideas in your own philosophy? Apply it?
Yeah, like all of my sidechain compression techniques, a lot of the sound, I use a multi-track, sometimes to multi-track or just to record it, and then turn up the trims so that way I have that air sound and low pass filter it so it has that old sound to it. So I take those same techniques and apply it to this. I learn from all the things that I've done, and just I keep and hold on to them and just apply that as I go. So it still has sentimental value, I suppose.
Got it. No, that's great. I mean, I think taking other influences from other genres and different types of music, I think is
and I learned a lot. Like with lo-fi hip hop, it was different things with clocks and doing two different time signatures and drums. So you have the sloppy sleepy drums and stuff. And I do that when I'm running Manus. Like a lot of this I do, it's rooted in percussion. It's not like I said, until I had the circuit and stuff, I wasn't sequencing anything. I was just setting triggers, and I have a Knight's Gallop that does polyrhythms, and so I would use two different clocks and kind of make sure that one was kind of like a little off, like I would if I was doing my lo-fi drums, but it's a synth instead. So if you listen carefully, it's there.
Nice. I definitely hear the changing and the evolving and with the sounds. So it's definitely, you can hear it moving in the textures, like moving the textures. That's. So, I mean, so when you're talking about your recording and it's let's talk about that. Like, how do you, first of all, I know you talk about the Manus. So like, is that like do you start off with the Manus? Let's start there. Or do you start with something else, or do you start with a feeling and then go with there?
Usually I sit down to a blank slate and Manus is usually the start. It's because it's my main guy. And I'll either, run it in free run and just kind of like modulate until I hear something, or I'll just send it a pulse and let it just keep pulsing. And then as I modulate and add things, find that rhythm that I like, and then start layering on top of that.
Got you. So like you're using that as and then you start building like your drums or any other sounds that you're adding.
Yep.
So now the new addition to your noise engineering pack little family there is the BIA. Are you? Yes. How are you digging it?
I like it a lot. Oddly enough, I probably blasphemously am using it only for bass. but it does do kick quite well.
Yeah.
But I think with the way my sound is, I like using it as a bass and kind of fill in those gaps in where Manus isn't. That's the thing. Like they both have like their own sound, but one does something better than the other, and vice versa. So that's why you kind of have to have both. You have one, because that's what I was running into. Is I would be doing stuff with Manus, but I'm like, man, I wish this was cleaner. I wish this was like heavier. When I have this kick sound that I'm recording with, I wish it was like more like a kick and not so much a heavy synth. And then just like, okay, I have to get a BIA.
Nice. So now you have that.
And now I have both.
Yeah. I mean, I've used the BIA even as like a high like lead.
Yes.
Lead sounds and things like that. Like
I've gotten some nice plucks out of it too.
Yeah. So it definitely has that. You can definitely get some soft sounds out of it too. Some of those higher frequencies, even though it's known for the being a percussive module,
Right.
but totally. Is that a question in the chat? I think the way I'm positioned, unfortunately, I can't hear. Thank you. Moth, have you cited any video game soundtrack composers as influence? Is game soundtrack work the ultimate goal for this project?
It is both game and film. But yeah, there's a lot of influence. Arcadia's Rokowski, he works a lot with Blooper games. He's somebody I'm like, I want to be that guy. Akira Yamamoto did a lot of stuff with Hideo Kojima for like Silent Hill and stuff like that. That guy's he's just awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of influence there. And that's kind of where my journey into the whole ambient also, came to fruition, because I'm big on movie soundtracks and stuff like that. I listen to that more than anything else. And it's like, well, I can do that. So, it's like, I learned and tried to master it. And all of my music has that vibe to it with intention. It's like, I'll release an album, but it's really kind of like a soundtrack portfolio. So that way, hopefully somebody hears that and goes, oh, this would work well in the soundtrack. Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's like you're building your reel with all your releases.
Right.
Nice. So now, like, since somebody brought up the gaming and stuff, have you been working and composing with excuse me, I don't know why I'm tripping on my words tonight, but for games, is that? I'm
working my way towards there. Yeah, I'm working pretty hard at it. I haven't done anything for a developer yet. But that's your goal, but that's the ultimate goal. And I've got a lot of people in my corner. I got helping me out and getting there. So hopefully within this year we have some big things going on.
Nice. I mean, well, you have a great discography. I mean, lots of different stuff in there. And I know reaching back, back to Gray Matters, which is something you're probably totally not doing anymore, but I really like that. It's like it had some different elements going on. So I like that your journey shows that you've been, it seems like when I listen to your music that it has evolved, and you can always reach back right into those other.
Oh yeah, and I have myself and been like, wait, I made this. This is dope. Man, maybe I should go back to doing that now. Right. Because at the time, like I said, I wasn't really connecting with it. So I would make it and I'd be like, this is cool, but people like it. And then I go back and listen to it now and I'm like, yo, wait a minute. You don't know how many times I've like gone on Spotify and like had something playing, and then something of mine came up that was like from the lo-fi days. And I'm just like, oh, this beat goes. This is nice.
Right.
Oh. It's me. Okay.
Nice. Well, that's always a plus when you like your own music too. Like, I mean, you have to like it if you expect, if you want to share it and with the world and want other people to enjoy it. That's first and foremost, I think, is that we have to like, for me, I have to like what I'm doing first, and then it kind of reflects in the music.
Right.
Yeah. So like, have you thought of maybe, have you ever looked back at some of the stuff that you've done and want to add some of the ambient vibe or elements to?
Maybe. No, I actually, I was looking at it the other day and I was like, I should make some remixes with my old lo-fi stuff. So it's funny that question came up.
Dope. I think people would really enjoy it for sure. Man. So the other question I wanted to ask then is your recording process. So when you're being a modular artist now, I'll say that it's definitely, for me personally, has changed how I approach writing a song or a composition. And then also my recording process. So I know you mentioned before you did a lot of things in the computer and that, but now where are you at right now? Like, and then what were you doing? Like, what are the comparisons from before, like your recording?
I felt the computer was like a creativity like killer for me. I spent too much time menu diving and trying to figure out what sounds I wanted to use and how I wanted to use them. And then I would do something and then I didn't like it. So then I go to have to do some more menu diving. And after a while, it was just like, well, now I don't even feel like making it anymore. So that was another reason why I switched to the synths, and also why this case is small. I try to keep everything. This is what I have. This is what I'm working with. And this is all I have to work with. So make it work. And so with recording, currently, like in the live set, I do everything live. So I want to be able to just play it, get it done, and one take it, and it all gets recorded to tape, and then the tape gets recorded to digital, and then it becomes an album. And that's pretty much how it goes. And it's so much more streamlined for me than in the computer. I even, trying to get into composing, the reality is that I need the computer because you can't really, make any edits or changes with modular, because it's like, hey, we like this track, but can this come in at this time? And can we have this added to it? And it's like, I already broke down the patch, so no. so the computer was a mandatory thing. And I took that same concept that I was doing when I was recording everything to tape and applied it to the DAW, because that was going to be the only way I was going to go in there. So I don't use any VSTs or anything like that. I mean, I have Contact for like piano stuff because I like playing piano, and every once in a while it's necessary. And then I do have effects. Like I got Arcade just to have stuff just for if somebody needed, hey, can you put this in here? And I have it. But when it comes to making my albums and stuff, it's just I output directly from the Eurorack into the Scarlett and into the DAW, and I record everything live just like I would on cassette. So I have an individual track for each module, and I just go from there. Yeah.
Nice. And then do you basically stick to like some EQing in the? Yeah.
I have in the picture I've got the Zoom MS-20 or MS-70 CR pedal, and
here I'll put it up for people.
Yeah, so that blue pedal there, what's on there, I do have a reverb on there whenever I need it, but it's actually just got a compressor, limiter, EQ, and a preamp on there, so that way I can do all of my mixing and stuff like that, and adjustments there when I'm live. And then same thing is set up in Cubase. I have the same setup, so that way I can kind of adjust those things and filter things out and make those changes as needed. But I try not to tamper with it too much. Usually in the creative process, I kind of adjust those things as I go. So like, if I like Manus is getting out of control, with the attenuation, and that's another reason also I got the Secaruina, so that way I had the control of the highs, lows, and mids. So that way I can kind of shape that sound ahead of time. Because I have no mastering skills. So I try to get the sound as clean and as nice as possible, because when I record it, that's it. It's going to Bandcamp or wherever as is. So I try to keep it clean and neat as I'm making it. And then once it sounds great, I just hit the record button and go back and play through it. Like I said, everything is live, so I do all my modulation and everything. If it sounds great, it sounds good. Because I'm like a one take person. Like if you're like, hey, play that again, I'm just like, it's gonna be different because I don't know what I was doing. I just kind of get in the zone and just let things happen. So
gotcha. Do you ever just record it
a
few times just so you can hear like a comparison, or?
Nope. I just record it.
That's it. You're just like, that's it. Just
like as soon as I hear it, and like as I'm playing it, and I know that it sounds, I'm like, okay, that sounds clean, sounds good, and I run through it, and I kind of just zone out and let it play. A lot of times, sometimes there's long tracks, like I'll sit down for like 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll take a section of that and make that a track. So there's that. That I guess that would be that cherry picking side of that of finding that sweet spot or that part that was like really good and sectioning that out. But yeah, other than that, it's just, I'll mix, like usually it starts with, like I said, I'll mess around with Manus and I'll add and layer on. And then it was like, all right, that's good. And I'll just literally hit record and just keep going. And then when I'm tired of it, I stop and go throw it onto the computer. Yeah.
Nice. Sometimes that was the one thing about working in the computer too, versus recording modular or hardware live, is that, you can fall into that. Or for me, I would fall into that. Oh, keep changing. And it's so hard to like make the commit.
Because it's so accessible.
Whereas like, sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, you're fine.
Oh, I was saying you're just digging and like changing and never committing and finalizing.
Right. Yeah, and it's exactly it. It's too accessible. That's why I like the small setup, because everybody's like, you're going to fall into that Eurorack trap and have, I'm like, no, I'm going to have this right here. This is it. There's nothing adding anything. It's done. But
that's some good discipline, though, BLAKMOTH, right there. Like, I have to say, like.
Now, trust, there are things that I've seen that I'm just like, ooh, and then I look at it and I look at the rack and I go, nope, we're going to keep it as it is, because that's how we maintain the sound. Also, it's like it sounds a certain way. It's going to always sound that way because it's what I have to use. But in the computer, you have too many options. So it's like, oh, do I want to add this? Or maybe I'll do this, or I'll filter it this way, or let me just pull up this VSC, add this to it. And it's just too much. And you get so caught up in that and you lose track of what the original idea was. And then there's a lot of times
right?
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times I get so far into it that I lose the whole track altogether. And then I end up not liking it. And so I'm just like, wow, I just spent 3 hours to not like the track. So I could have just left it alone, so.
Oh. Nice. Well then, so let me ask you this then. How, so now that you've evolved into modular and you seem like you have like a specific vision of your music, how did you, so talk about your involvement with Errorgrid, because you've had some great releases on Errorgrid Records.
Yeah, Errorgrid is like amazing. I'm so glad that they approached me, because everybody that's on Errorgrid was somebody I was like listening to already and I was in awe of. So it's like to be asked to join a crew of people that just already were like inspiring was great. And we all have like a similar vibe when it comes to creating music and the type of music that we create, but we all sound different and unique. And that's like super awesome to me, because it's like we get each other and we're presenting this package for everyone else that you can, pull up a playlist of all Errorgrid artists and you're going to listen all the way through it and you're going to enjoy it. And it's all going to be different, but you can tell that we're all on the same wavelength,
Right. Yeah. There's definitely Nundell. He's curated that label a specific way, and it's I have to agree with you. Everyone is fantastic, and it has a certain vibe, but everyone has their own individuality. You can definitely hear it, and even So congratulations on that. The whole you and the whole label, excellent artists on there. So what is, I know you've kind of mentioned your plan, but so where do you see yourself? What is your what are your plans for this year? I can ask you that because we're at the beginning of the year pretty much, right?
Right.
I don't know what happened to last year. I don't know what to say about it, but like, it was all a blur.
We don't talk about last year.
Last year was, I can't complain about last year, like in the sense of like I had an opportunity to meet you, so many other artists, many people that are in this chat. And again, if you're just joining, this is Faders Up with Trovarsi. Thank you to all those people that are new watchers, return watchers. Sign Mountain, I'm wearing your socks tonight. Thank you so much. And yeah, so last year I can't complain. It's been great, like all you and all these other people. But so let's talk about this year. What are your
this year? My goals are to push towards this whole scoring thing, both in games and media and film. I feel like I have the sound and the talent for that. So, and I have a drive and desire to do it too. Like, it's not like a thing I want to do. It's like a thing I have to do because it's in me to do it, kind of thing.
Nice.
And I'm going to be, unfortunately, I'm going to be taking a little break from the prolificity of music like I've been doing. And I focus on this stuff. But that doesn't mean there won't be any good releases. I'll just make sure the releases that happen are epic. But I can't keep up with the 2 or 3 albums a month thing that I've been doing.
It's tough. You gotta
and focus on that. Yeah.
Yes.
But so the goal for me short term is making sure I have all the skills and knowledge to get into the gaming side of it. For the film side, I kind of have it. Gaming's a little bit different. There's a little bit of programming things you have to learn, and interactive music versus just making a track. So that's going to be a little bit different. I recently made a post where I kind of applied that interactive music versus just throwing a track, and syncing it to a piece of film. And then also getting into production music, for commercials and TV, film, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So a lot of the time that I would normally spend making albums, I'll be building production albums, so that way there's a library for people to go to and pick out songs and music and stuff to use in film.
That's pretty awesome.
And some collabs. I'm trying to get some collabs done. I didn't do any for a while, and I kind of want to pair up with some folks and get some music out there.
Nice. I know you and I've talked a little bit, so we'll definitely have to circle back with that for sure. Yes. And I mean, I'm really interested to hear what you end up doing with the composing and that side of things. I hope you still can share some of those things with us, and definitely, let me know and let everyone know when you release or compose for something specific, so we can share it in the community. That's one thing that's really cool about the synth community. We're all supportive of each other, and so
that's been always the primary goal for me too. It's once I got into synths and stuff in Modular, it was all about keeping others inspired, because I loved it so much, and it was just kind of like life-changing for me. It's very meditative. It's very it's all about wellness too. Like it's therapy. So I kind of wanted to make sure I inspired people to do the same. Excuse me. And find ways to get into music and always keep everyone inspired. And I will definitely keep up in Instagram and social media and stuff of my progress, because it's something that shows other people like, oh, you know what, I can do this. If he can do it, I can do it. Anybody can take the steps to live their dreams if they choose to fight for them.
Nice. And that's great advice. So then with that, like what would you recommend to anybody getting into Modular right now? If you
for me
in the chat, yes. Yeah.
For me, it was the graciousness of Robert Landry for sending me an AE modular system. I was looking into Modular and I was losing my mind, because I was like, oh, it's so expensive. This is crazy. What am I going to do? I really want to do this, but I can't afford this right now. And my music's not selling really well, so I don't see myself getting into it. And I had a chat with him, and he was nice enough to send me an AE modular system. And I learned everything that I needed to know on that. And I think anyone who's looking to get into modular, for what it costs to buy one super nice module, you can get this whole system, and you can learn everything you need to learn on it. And there's tons of modules out there. He's starting to port over a lot of mutable instrument stuff system, and things right? like that. Yeah. It's like the whole system is like $400, and it's like for $400 you have 2 oscillators, everything, all the utilities, all the things you would need, LFOs, everything, and you can learn on it, and you can decide from there. It's resellable if you choose to not think that you don't, it's not what you want to get into, but right. You're going to get into it. Like after a while, you'll be like, okay, this is kind of cool. I can forge my own sounds. And that's the biggest part for modular for me. It's like, I don't have to menu dive because I have a sound in my head. I can just build it and go, and that's I definitely recommend that. It got me started. And what's cool about it too, is this noise engineering system is an exact duplicate of my AE modular system. Because it was just like I had it, I learned it, and I learned everything, so I knew what I needed when I decided to go to Eurorack. So when I hopped on Modular Grid, I already knew what I needed to buy and exactly what the sounds that it was going to make because I had that practice.
Nice. So, now, are you still using that system so much? Or?
Oh yeah, it's actually grown a lot. It was like a nice little system, and now it's like this big long rack with effects and all kinds of craziness. So
Very cool.
I play around on it often. There's been a couple tracks in recent albums where it's in there. It's part of the crew. So
very cool. There's actually a question from the chat too. What is your opinion on VCV rack and my rack?
I played around with VCV rack. I think it's an awesome option as well. Because there's your free option. And you still learn the same things. It's equally as valuable as having the A modular. I think the A modular just gives you that tangible access. For me, I see the value in VCV rack, and it is great. But because I'm so tangible, I couldn't deal with it. Like I was like, I can't touch the knob. I don't like it. So I had a hard time learning in VCV rack just because I'm very tactile and kinesthetic when it comes to learning things. And that's just me. Other people might have a different experience, but it's equally valuable. What's great too is they've done a really good job at imitating the sounds, like side by side. You a good audiophile know the difference, but anybody who's just making music, you're not going to tell the difference between Platts in real life and Platts in VCV rack. So
I've had a lot of fun in it too. Yeah.
I just I need to get an interface for the rack, so that way I want to kind of use both of them at the same time. Throw some stuff into VCV rack from the rack and back and forth. That would be really cool.
Like an ES8 or ES9 or something like that. So interchange. Yeah, I mean, it definitely I've used VCV rack some, and I hear you. I'm very much a tactile person myself. Like I come from playing the piano and things like that, so I enjoy playing the instruments. Right. But there is a positive side to the VCV rack. And what you're saying is like not everybody can run out and just spend thousands of dollars on modules.
Exactly.
And it's great to have that experience and to be able to learn. And it's also nice to try out something before you do go buy something that's $500 module. Maybe you play with it in VCV rack and realize maybe that's not the sound you're going for.
Exactly.
Yeah. On the flip side of it, I've been in VCV rack and been like pulling in modules, like it's like going out of style, because like before I have this like massive rack, cables like everywhere, and like it sounds great, but I'm like, holy shit, like I definitely couldn't do all of this in a physics, you know what I mean? That's like a lot of modules.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, so I think somebody in the chat mentioned something about a tutorial yes, Electronic Sounds Audio. Great channel too. Pop that up there, Will. Thank you. I just want to say that if anyone is out there looking into getting into VCV rack or Euro rack or anything, he did do a video on it. It was great. Great channel. Thank you. But no, so you're thinking of maybe getting like an ES8 or ES9 so you can start.
Yeah, so I can send this stuff out. Now if my computer can handle it. VCV rack's starting to get a little big. It's a little hefty. There's been a couple of times where it crashed on me, and I was like, "Hey, you've never crashed before. Calm down." But yeah,
did you have like
really
50
cool.
modules in there, or
right? Yeah, I was being aggressive. But it would be cool to have, you know, a lot of the mutable stuff and throw things away. I don't have a Clouds or a Monsoon. I've been wanting one, but the rack is the way the rack's staying, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. Now there is still the nifty case over here, but you know, I kind of want to keep that as is, and so it would be nice to be able to send stuff over there and kind of play with it. But and in the same sense of like you were saying, it's cool to test out modules and see how well they perform and if they work with your system, and are they going to be compatible with what you're trying to do before you go out and spend $500.
Totally.
I have a few modules where I was like, oh, this is going to be great because this, and I've stepped outside of my plan, and now those modules are in the nifty case. And in some boxes around here somewhere. Yeah.
Voltage controller said, build a second rack.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I feel like you've been pretty disciplined. So that was like, that's hard in modular.
It's hard. So, it's hard.
It's a slippery, it's a fun slope, but a slippery slope.
Yeah. There's I actually took a bunch of stuff out because I was thinking about getting some new noise engineering things, and I was like, put them back. like we're not changing the rack. Like, just put it back. You know, Fractal Solum sounds really nice though. I kind of want to put it in there.
Oh yeah, it's a little clock, some extra modulation. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
So,
well, and I mean, thank you again so much for coming on to the show. HR Terror says the gas is real. Yes, it is.
It is.
It is.
It's a hard fight.
Yeah. So I just want to shout out to the chat again. Thank you so much for the support. I just want to check in, make sure anybody has some other questions they want to get out, and pop them in the chat, please, while we have BLAKMOTH here in the flesh, I guess, you know. But to answer the question live. And June is like, I'm already on my 4th rack. Yes. But yes, please, if you have any other questions, please drop them in. And, you know, thank you so much for coming on. Like, I've been wanting to have this chat with you, so I appreciate you being my guest tonight.
It makes me feel special. Yes.
Now. And I know we definitely need to talk about that collab, but we'll talk more about that offline. we'll talk the surprise.
There we go.
Oh, there's a question from Electronic Sounds Audio. What is it? Any modules you want on your want list? Yeah.
The want list. Well, I know I want that Crucible from Sacrament Modular that just came out. That thing. Well, it's trying to come out. Guys need to go support that if you want to see that.
Which one? Say it again. I'm sorry.
It's there's like Neurobellum and Erica Sense developed a new module called the Crucible, and it is dope. It's everything that it does. I'm just like, this is pure genius. There's nothing like it. It's amazing. And right now they're pushing if they can get a certain amount of units ordered, it gets produced. So, you know, definitely check it out.
I saw that.
It's nice. It's like hard to explain what it does because it's just so cool.
Wait. So is that the one where you can send in like a bunch of effects, and it's like where you can pan through all of them?
Yeah, it's basically like it's like a ring sequencer, kind of like the I forget, is it the qubit octo something? I forgot what it's called. I can't remember it for some reason. But how that sequencer is done. But it's you send in stuff and it sequences through those effects. And there's even you can send in different voices and it'll sequence in between those voices and probability and all kinds of things.
Yeah,
So
I saw a couple videos on it. I was like,
oh my gosh.
yeah.
Like it's the dream module. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But
I know, you're right. I was like, I looked at a couple of videos for it and I was like, look away. Like, yeah.
He did a couple live streams and I was watching and I was just like, I need to get out. I need to leave because it's too much. It's too awesome. I gotta keep the rack like it is.
Yeah, even voltage controllers, like it's so dope. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, there's nothing like it, and it's so versatile. You'll use it in every patch. It transform your whole sound. It's crazy.
Yeah. Somebody asked, is that the qubit module? No, he's talking about the Crucible is what it's called.
Yeah.
Correct? And what's the name of the company again? The Crucible?
Mm-hmm. Sacrament Modular.
Sacrament
but
Modular.
It's a co-op between them and Erica Sense. So Erica Sense is building it, but Narrowbarrel developed it.
Yeah, they make Erica Sense makes fantastic modules too. So
exactly. So
it's called. The chat. Copy the link below and drop it in the chat. Cool. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna drop it in right now so then people can look at it after the show. Yeah, but I'm with you. Yeah, and Erica Sensei, you're using the sample drum in there for you're saying your field recordings and that. Right. Somebody did mention, I know we talked a little bit about it, but before I let you go, I just want to circle back to their question and like, how did you get into ambient music specifically?
I think it came from my love for soundtracks and composers and stuff like that. I listened to a lot of that stuff, and it has that, the vibe. Hans Zimmer's it's Hans Zimmer, and then you have a lot of that has that feel to it. Same thing in games. When I listen to game soundtracks, a lot of the games are like that because in a film sense or a game sense, it has to be minimal so it doesn't overtake the visual and the dialogue. So a lot of the stuff you find is very minimal and ambient. And so listening to stuff like that, I was just like, what is this music? What is it called? And I found out it was ambient, and I just kind of started listening to more of that and finding other artists. It's crazy because if you scroll through if you're able to scroll through my iTunes library and Spotify, it's all people I follow. It's all different artists, and it's all ambient artists, Heimbach, all of them. That's what I listen to. So I'm out there supporting you.
Do you listen to Cliff Martinez at all, or?
I've heard the name, but I haven't. I'm gonna have to find
him out. Check him out. Man. I think you'll like him. I like very dark, cinematic. Definitely listen to some of his stuff. It's great. But yeah, again, sorry. Thank you for circling back and answering that. But yes, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great. Is there anything else that you want to kind of shout out to our viewers, and before we kind of close out the show, or
just to stay positive and keep creating. Those of you that are creative and inspired, that's the best thing we can do these days. And hopefully us, the music artists out there and entertainers and creators can kind of keep on pushing and keeping. I always say that music and art should be a destination for people. And, I try to make sure my music is that. And, that's something to strive for because these days people need somewhere to go, besides where they're at. So
that is true. That's great advice. Well, thank you again, BLAKMOTH, for coming on the show. I just want to tell everyone, thank you again for tuning in and watching, and just give a shout out to some of the shows that are coming up in March. It's a big month for our synth community. There's the SoCal Synth Society is going to have their ModBap showcase. They'll release, I believe it's 2 volumes of ModBap, and that's the first Saturday of March. And then we have coming up a Modular World, and that's, I believe, is on the 13th. And actually, I'm playing that one. Todd Barton is playing that one. And I
Nice.
believe at the end of the month, and if Sign Mountain is in the chat, please drop it in there. They're doing their meetup at the last Saturday of the month, and it's about mixing and mastering. So lots of good stuff for our synth community. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in to Faders Up. Have a good night.
All right.